Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. I'm back with What If Deku was One Punch Man. This is part 3, and if you enjoy, make sure to show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below, all that good stuff, and I'm not going to waste that much more of your time, because I just want to get right into part 3. This is, I believe, going to be the second to last episode of the series. I will try to get the next episode out to y'all tomorrow, and yeah, that's about it. That's all I got to say, and let's get right into the What If. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya versus the one and only #1 hero, All Might. Izuku approaches his test. He approaches the goal. The goal is to defeat All Might in a one-on-one battle. And Izuku just can feel it at the bottom of his heart that he can do this. He would step forward through the gate and he would dash toward where All Might currently is. A shockwave of wind would come soaring toward him, but he would pile drive through it, pushing himself easily through it. And as he arrives at All Might, he throws one punch and his fist is about to connect with All Might's face. But he realizes something. He's slower. He stops and he questions All Might. Why are you so slow? What's happening? All Might would then say that he's not slow, maybe Izuku's just so fast. Izuku immediately would see that he has weights on, telling him to take off the weights, that he wants an All Might that is unrestricted, full power. He wants to prove that he's the strongest and that he's stronger than him. All Might is confused. He can't take off the weights. I mean, it's for the safety of the students. And Izuku says that he'll be just fine. He promises that. He's never been hurt in his life, and it's going to continue to be that way. Of course, All Might is skeptical, but eventually Aizawa would confirm that he should take off, well, the weights. He does just that, and the fight would begin. Well, whatever you want to call this, if it's really, quote-unquote, a fight. Izuku would land one blow to All Might. Yes, it would be partially blocked, but that one blow would injure All Might so much that All Might felt his whole body aching. Izuku would say that that isn't even really a fraction of his power, and All Might would be in complete shock. How strong is this kid truly? Izuku would then appear right in front of All Might once again and land one more shot. One more punch, and the fight would be over. All Might would yield after being hurt pretty bad, nothing to the point where like he's super injured, but All Might would smile and say that Izuku, that he's something else, that he's truly going to be better and greater than so many out there. Izuku smiles and says that he wants to follow in the footsteps of All Might and be even better than him. He wants to be rid of all villains and make sure that crime doesn't exist ever. All Might would smile and would be happy to hear this, and he would say that he's doing one hell of a job right now, and he'll do a hell of a job very soon. The fight is over, and it seems like most, if not everybody in his class would pass. The forest training camp would be their next stop, and for whoever who didn't pass would be taking a bit of extra courses over at the forest training camp. So don't worry, nobody will be getting left behind. Aizawa would explain this and say and tell them all that this is exactly what's going to occur and to really not worry at all. Of course, though, Izuku would just listen to Aizawa as normal, and when they would head over to the forest training camp, they would all stop at a nearby cliff. Izuku would listen, but not really pay that much attention to what's going on. The Wild Pussycats would show up, and Izuku would show minor interest in what was going on at that point because he was a fan of the Wild Pussycats, but he wouldn't really go too in depth with how big of a fan he is. Eventually, a bunch of just earth would more or less turn into a wave and shove them all off, but as this happens, Izuku would be standing still. It's as if the wave didn't even affect him at all, and he was able to actually break through the entirety of the earth that was being shifted, and he didn't even move an inch. Everybody's in shock except for Aizawa. Aizawa says that the kid is that strong. He's probably even stronger than All Might. Actually, scratch that. He is stronger than All Might. Everybody there, the Wild Pussycats, are in complete and utter panic. This kid is stronger than All Might. What are they supposed to teach him? Aizawa says that leave the teaching up to him, that it's nothing for them to worry about. In terms of raw strength, he's nothing, well, that they could even teach in terms of just getting stronger. But in terms of being a good hero, there's things that they can truly teach him, and that's what he'll be focusing on. Aizawa tells him to not help his classmates, that it would be too easy if he does so, and to just jump off to the forest training camp. And he nods his head as he takes one leap and he goes soaring through the sky. Everybody is shocked, well, obviously except for Aizawa, but the Wild Wild Pussycats would be in complete shock. That kid, he just jumped so casually. How the hell? You can't be serious. Stronger than All Might. Aizawa would murmur under his voice, yeah, maybe even stronger than Prime All Might. He would go back in the bus, and the Wild Wild Pussycats would just be standing there, not knowing what to even say. But after some time would pass, the students would finally arrive at the forest training camp, but Izuku was already there. He's been talking with people like Koda and some other people that arrived earlier, and he was just hanging out. Koda would actually not mind Izuku. Izuku would be kind of pretty interactive with Koda, and he would easily dodge a nut shot Koda would throw at him, but he would explain to Koda that he has some insane strength, and that his course to being a hero, and his goal is to literally save everybody, and he promises that he'll do just that. Koda is skeptical, but after hearing from the Wild Wild Pussycats that this kid is stronger than All Might, he would think that Izuku's actually pretty cool. That he'll eventually be strong enough to literally save everybody, and that maybe, just maybe, if Izuku was here before, his parents would still be alive. But there's nothing that could even happen or make do of that idea right now, but he's actually impressed with Izuku. Impressed with the idea that he's that strong, and impressed that Izuku is just, well, the future of Hero Society. When the rest of the students would arrive, everybody would basically just have time to eat dinner and get washed up, in which Izuku does that with everyone else as well, and many people like Kirishima would ask him how did he get so strong, and Izuku would explain that it's really not that clear cut. He can't just tell them how he got so strong. I mean, yeah, he got so strong because he did push-ups and sit-ups and whatever else he did, and also drank a lot of juice. But still, that's something they all could do. It doesn't mean they'll have the same results. Izuku is convinced that he was blessed by some sort of gods. Maybe he was blessed by them to get something stronger than a quirk. He was blessed to be stronger than everyone else. In which everyone's kind of in awe at the idea. I mean, they can't really dispute it. I mean, he doesn't have a quirk on record. I mean, they've ran tests on him, no quirk at all in sight. So, I mean, they guess so. I mean, what else would explain it? I mean, he's just that dude. He's just that strong. He's just basically almighty. He's just all powerful. He's One Punch Man. Izuku would tell them to not worry about him, but to worry about any training that they can do to get their quirks stronger. That they're going to be just as important as he is in stopping crime rate entirely. In which they're all shocked to hear this. He really believes that he can stop crime rate entirely. He shakes his head, saying that All Might couldn't even do that on his own. He'll still need some really strong people around him to help him stop crime rate entirely. But he does believe that it can happen. He'll help stop the mass majority of it. Everyone else will help clean up the rest, and they'll be able to stop crime rate forever. And they're all invigorated by this. They're excited, thinking that this training could bring them to the next level. I mean, it might not bring Izuku to the next level because, well, he's already, well, leagues and planets and galaxies above everyone else, but still, he might be able to learn a couple things and maybe teach them a couple things, and they'll be able to get stronger altogether. And eventually it would lead them to just taking down villain society entirely. Izuku is happy to see that many are motivated. Even Bakugo is slightly motivated by this, but he keeps in mind that his goal is to be stronger than Izuku. He doesn't care if he's blessed by the gods. He doesn't care that if he's blessed by anything itself. He doesn't care at all. He wants to make sure that he's stronger, faster, and better than Izuku, and he's going to make sure he does that. But even if he can't do that, well, he'll still try, and he'll get stronger because of it. Izuku, the next day, would begin their training, or his training. His training is pretty simple though. It might sound boring, but Aizawa tells him that his training is to case situations, restrict his power, and try not to kill people when he hits them. I mean, yes, this might sound simple, but at the same time, they don't want a bunch of paperwork on their hands because Izuku punches somebody and completely obliterates their body. Of course, Izuku can understand this, so he starts working on his restraint. But Aizawa does tell him that he needs to make sure that he knows who he's punching at all times. Yes, there are certain villains that could take certain amounts of punishment, so he needs to remember and realize that at all times. Izuku nods and hears Aizawa out as he begins to train in doing this. Throughout the entire day, Izuku begins to work on his restraint, begins to work on all of this, and eventually it would get to the point where it feels kind of better. He doesn't feel perfect with it. He doesn't feel like, oh yeah, I can do this easy peasy, but he is getting a lot better at it overall. After the training was done for the day though, all of them would reconvene, eat some dinner, and just hang out. Izuku would see that Koda is currently not there, so he decides to take a plate of, well, food and head over to Koda. As he does so though, he gives Koda the food and they begin speaking. He begins telling Koda what his plans are, what he wants to do, and exactly how life is going to change for everybody in this society. And he promises that. He knows that many before him have made that promise, but he can fulfill the promise. He's going to make sure everyone is protected. Yes, this hero thing is very, very, very complicated, and he understands that. This whole hero thing and certain things you can't do sometimes is, well, a little bit restrictive. But he tells Koda that there's no need to worry, that he's going to make sure that he can handle and deal with everything that's ahead. He tells Koda that all it takes is one person strong enough to lead the charge, and villain society will be gone forever. As he says this, a voice throughout the forest would then begin speaking, telling him that villain society will never go away, and that there's no way a damn kid like him is going to stop shit. Immediately, he would look over and grab Koda. He would move Koda out of harm's way and appear in front of the man, this giant hulking figure. He tells Izuku that he's heard about him, heard he's strong, very strong. Izuku would not let the hulking man say another word, landing a punch straight to his face, a punch to his gut, and a punch straight to his back, sending him flying toward the mountain as he smashes into it. Izuku can hear the heartbeats of Muscular still there, but Muscular is completely out cold and limp. Izuku tells Koda that they're going to be heading back to the camp, that they need to make sure to save whoever and everyone they possibly can. He grabs Koda, jumping off, and he keeps an eye out for anybody that would need help. Izuku drops Koda off with Aizawa, and Aizawa tells him to make sure that everybody comes back safe. Izuku would bolt off, just obliterating and destroying every Nomu he possibly sees, and every challenge that is in front of him, every villain that's in front of him, would get destroyed as well. He would destroy every single one he possibly can, but eventually, and very, very soon, he would arrive where Bakugo is. It seems like they're trying to capture Bakugo, but their way of getting out is far, far more difficult than ever before. I mean, Kurogiri isn't there to help them portal away, so they had to take different advances to more or less set themselves up to more or less capture Bakugo. But everything seems to be crumbling around them, but it's all because of that bald-headed freak. They're all pissed. People like Dabi and many others are absolutely just annoyed and pissed off because of this. They knew it was going to be difficult, but this is outlandish. Izuku would neutralize the mass majority of them, forcing them to all escape, in which they would do that. Shigaraki not really being with them, but many others would be with them. So it would lead to the capture of some of the more lower tier villains or lower tier people in the League of Villains. So they would be lesser in numbers. But even with that said though, the League of Villains have their plans, and they want to do certain things that they believe need to get done right now. There's certain things that need to be fulfilled, and when all of them escape, they realize they're going to have to fall back on their original plan, or their plan that is in motion now. That plan is to have the combined forces of All For One, Dabi, and many others, and even a trump card, well, to try and defeat them. trying to defeat these people. So when they would arrive back in the city, there would be a fight to break out almost immediately. Izuku would be, well, within that fight as well. He would see that All Might is fighting All For One, and many other people are just brawling and fighting. And luckily enough, Bakugo wasn't captured this time around, but still within the cities nearby, it's carnage. Nomu scattered all about, Shigaraki laying ruins. They feel that this is their only chance. They can't let any more heroes develop. And that's exactly what they're going to make sure doesn't happen. All For One, many others, and a giant monster would arrive on the scene. Izuku would be told to leave, Aizawa looking at him, knowing that the kid has no intention of doing anything of the sort. Izuku has one thing in his mind and one thing only, and that's to protect and defeat. He sees All For One fighting All Might, but he sees the other small five villains. If he eliminates them quickly, maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to crack an upper hand. He would swing to the fences, knocking out people like Dabi, knocking out other people in the League of Villains, Toga, and so on, and eventually would lead his eyes to Shigaraki. A Shigaraki that actually has been experimented on far sooner than in the real canon. But this Shigaraki is far from perfected and was more of a last-ditch effort. Izuku would put the hands on Shigaraki, and quickly it would be apparent that the levels between Shigaraki and Izuku are way too wide. A knockout blow to Shigaraki would proceed, and Izuku would bring his attention to the giant monster by the name of Gigantomachia. Gigantomachia seems to be a version, a pet of some sorts, maybe a loyal dog to All For One. Izuku would jump toward him, and his mouth would open, but Izuku would know that one punch is all it would do. One serious punch. Izuku would land the punch straight to the dog of All For One, and the dog would get sent flying through the sky. He would realize that this isn't really a dog. Let's be honest here. I mean, it's a freak of nature. He acts like a dog. Maybe he's just loyal as one. But he goes plummeting toward the sky and coming plummeting back to the ground. And with some assists from the other heroes, it seems to be wrapped up and over. Izuku would look toward All For One, and All Might would be on his last legs. Izuku would watch as All For One would clash with All Might one last time, and Izuku can tell and knows that this is the end for All Might. He might not be dead, he might not die, but truly, his hero days will end here. It's sad. Someone like All Might, someone that everybody loves, someone that has inspired so many, including Izuku himself, they're gonna have to watch as he falls, as he falters, and as his life as a hero is over. Yes, one last United States of Smash would defeat All For One. All For One would be carted off, completely restricted, including everybody else in the League of Villains. There was no escaping. There was no defeating. Everything, all the security measures will need to be amped up, but Izuku has shown everybody who's truly going to be the next All Might. Better than All Might, truly, but they wanted somebody to be the symbol, and Izuku would stand in front of a camera, and everybody would deem him as the next figure to succeed All Might. But this kid, he's just a kid. Like, that has to be said. He's not truly a hero yet, and the only reason why is because he doesn't have a little piece of paper. I mean, he'll have to go through the process of at least becoming a provisional hero, so getting a provisional hero license, in which that's exactly what's going to be coming very soon. It all starts initially with them training, working on their super moves, and Izuku just working on ways to better himself, working on ways to not only get stronger, but also use restraint. So he continues training with these super moves, continues training, working hard, and so on and so forth. And Izuku would feel prepared. He would feel prepared, especially when Aizawa would tell his entire class that, well, it's now time. It is now time for them to do their provisional hero licensing exam and become or be available to do hero work and to be heroes for agencies. So that's exactly what Izuku is excited for, and is exactly what Izuku wants to do. But after getting that, well, provisional hero licensing exam, there will be more and more to do. Next up is the provisional hero licensing exam, and also the takedown of Overhaul. So if you enjoyed and you're excited for the finale of What If Deku Was One Punch Man, then make sure to show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.